First, we are giving opportunity of employment to 250,000 of the unemployed, especially the young men who have dependents, to let them go into forestry and flood prevention work. That is a big task because it means feeding and clothing and caring for nearly twice as many men as we have in the regular Army itself. And in creating this civilian conservation corps, we are killing two birds with one stone. We are clearly enhancing the value of our natural resources, and at the same time we are relieving an appreciable amount of actual distress. This great group of men, young men, have entered upon their work on a purely voluntary basis. No military training is involved, and we are conserving not only our natural resources, but also our human resources. One of the great values to this work is the fact that it is direct and requires the intervention of very little machinery.
In the 1930s, poverty swept across America, leaving over 25% of Americans without work or the financial resources to care for their families. The election of Franklin D. Roosevelt in the fall of 1932 ushered in a new era for the country, as Roosevelt stepped in to revitalize the economy after the crash of the stock market. As part of his New Deal, FDR proposed numerous projects and organizations that would bring jobs back to the people and kickstart the economy. One of the most popular groups was the CCC, or the Civilian Conservation Corps, which hired young men as unskilled workers to develop and conserve natural resources on government-owned properties. Famous for their work in the national parks, the CCC employed over 3 million men to preserve national landmarks that millions of visitors still enjoy today. In 1933, during Roosevelt's first 100 days in office, programs such as the CCC and the WPA were created to develop and preserve the rural communities of the United States. The WPA, or the Works Progress Administration, was responsible for the construction of roads, bridges, and highways in these communities, allowing farmers to transport goods to consumers across regions.
But not until the beginning of the Works program was it possible to initiate a general plan for the development of farm-to-market roads. This plan brings immediate improvement in local business and property values wherever a secondary road is completed. At last, the farmer finds it possible to reach his market over well-constructed, weatherproof roads.
This organization of skilled workers fundamentally enhanced the equality of these regional communities by promoting the accessibility and development of rural towns, which allowed struggling farmers to thrive following the Great Depression. Similar to the work of the WPA, the CCC focused on developing recreational and natural reservations that allowed citizens to escape the madness of booming industrial cities and enjoy the diverse ecosystems of the U.S. Following the creation of the National Park Service by Woodrow Wilson in 1916, the need for manual labor increased as national and state parks grew in America. CCC workers, aged between 17 and 28, constructed trails, shelters, nature centers, and service buildings in over 800 parks, in addition to planting over 3 billion trees to preserve the natural landscape. In an effort to increase accessibility to these sites, the CCC designed the parks to accommodate for modern innovations, such as automobiles, which inspired the construction of scenic drives. And, with the rise of the American middle class, moderate trails and picnic shelters were built for the recreational enjoyment of families. As the CCC made the parks more accessible for modern Americans, the national parks grew in popularity and soon became the destination of millions of visitors from all over the world. Not only did the CCC provide labor for the development of natural reservations, it also gave young men the opportunity to earn money for their families following the Great Depression. Workers were paid $30 each month, 25 of which went home to their relatives, as well as free food, shelter, and clothing in the CCC camps spread throughout the country.
Thousands of jobless boys jump at the CCC offer of a decent living and money to send home in return for their labor. Within a few months, 240,000 raw, nondescript lads are pouring into 1,200 camps all over the country.
It's very good to be here at these Virginia CCC camps. I wish I could see them all over the country. And I hope that all over the country they're in as fine condition as the camps that I've seen today. I wish that I could take a couple of months off from the White House and come down here and live with them, because I know I'd get full of health the way they have. The only difference is that they've put on an average of about 12 pounds apiece since they got here, and I'm trying to take off 12 pounds.
As thousands of men worked with the CCC, countless families received much-needed financial assistance that kept middle-class citizens from going bankrupt. The CCC continued to provide these opportunities until the dawn of World War II and the U.S. draft called the young men to war. In addition to their work in the national parks, the CCC also had a profound impact on the smaller organizations such as the Cleveland Metroparks. 2 CCC camps found in Euclid Creek Reservation and Brecksville Reservation housed hundreds of young men from 1933 to 1941. Over the course of almost 10 years, CCC and WPA workers constructed over 55 miles of road, 53 miles of trails, 10 shelter houses, 3 nature centers, 33 picnic grounds, and 14 camping centers. William Stinchcomb, the first executive director of the Cleveland Metroparks, worked with the Roosevelt administration to bring the CCC and WPA into the greater Cleveland area to work in the Metroparks as well as Cuyahoga Valley National Park. The work of the CCC had such a profound influence on the parks that Stinchcomb later said that the work of these groups expedited the development of the Metroparks by 20 years. As the nation celebrates the centennials of the National Park Service as well as the Cleveland Metroparks, the lasting impact of the CCC and WPA is apparent within the reservations today. While numerous shelters, roads, and trails still remain in good condition, modern trail builders follow in the footsteps of the CCC by working to preserve natural resources while making them more accessible to the public. Workers today repeat old methods of construction to maintain the integrity of the parks and protect the work of these men. Overall, visitors continue to reap the benefits of their labor, and we hope to preserve their historical importance in these national landmarks for years to come.